Film.
Moving pictures.
Movies. The art of film has expanded to be one of the most widely recognized, widely loved mediums in our lives.
However, many people know very little about the origin of film and how movies are made. To understand the art of film and its influence, you have to go back to Soviet Russia of the 1920s. Say hello to the most influential filmmakers of all time, Sergei Eisenstein and Dziga Vertov, the fathers of modern film. Sergei Eisenstein and Dziga Vertov were two of the most influential filmmakers in Russian and world history. Despite living in the communist Soviet Union in the 1920s, they both were able to explore new film techniques such as the theory of montage and kinopravda, or film truth. They encountered difficulties completing their artistic vision while meeting the requirements of their oppressive government. Lastly, they exchanged their filmmaking ideas with the rest of the world, influencing filmmakers for decades to come. Though many people may not recognize these films, they are widely regarded as some of the best of all time. Without them, we would not have many of the film techniques used to create the films we love today. They are the work of Sergei Eisenstein, the Russian film teacher and perfecter of the Russian theory of montage.
Eisenstein was the most brilliant teacher of film.
Eisenstein was born in January 1898 in the capital city of Riga, Latvia. He grew up in communist Russia, and his native country had a large influence on his later career. The revolution gave me the most precious thing in life. It made an artist out of me. The revolution introduced me to art, and art, in its own turn, brought me to the revolution. Eisenstein worked as an actor and in movie theaters, and here was fascinated by the art of film. He left his life as an actor to pursue filmmaking and directing. Eventually, he found a job at the Russian Institute of Film. Here, he explored the new film technique of montage. The theory of montage suggests that stitching two images together can create a third, new idea.
Moscow Film School was exploring many new ideas and theories about filmmaking. Chief among them was Lev Kuleshev's idea that the meaning of a film comes as much from the sequence of the shots as the things in the shots. A good example of this is an experiment that Kuleshev conducted where he took a shot of a man looking confident, a shot of a weapon, and a shot of the same man looking afraid. By rearranging these shots, the audience can view the man either as brave or as a coward, thus demonstrating the power of editing and getting a response from the viewer. This theory would become the basis for the theory of montage, which Sergei Eisenstein would explore so heavily throughout his filmmaking career.
Eisenstein had 5 different types of montage, which all played off each other and were used to create new ideas. The most complex and most important of Eisenstein's methods of montage was intellectual montage. It was through this kind of montage that he would use cinema to influence the way people think and garner mass support for the Bolsheviks. The basis of Eisenstein's montages was the idea of thesis and antithesis. A thesis is one idea, and an antithesis is a different or conflicting idea.
The intellectual montage being the synthesis of the thesis, I suppose, the thesis of art, the antithesis of science. So the collision between art and science, this new form of art and science that combine together for what you call this intellectual montage.
It was through intellectual montage that Eisenstein combined his exploration of film methods with his encounters with the Soviet Union government, thus making it the most important kind of montage, combining all the other methods and expressing Soviet beliefs. The massively revolutionary work of Sergei Eisenstein was actually mostly Soviet propaganda.
And what Eisenstein was doing for the government was using his films, feature films, basically as a type of propaganda piece, but heavily artistic. So that's the difference of some of the Nazi propaganda that was pure propaganda, less artistic, but for Eisenstein, it was a propaganda that was very engaging and aesthetic.
Because I understand he wants to to get people to think, but it's also a very propagandist approach, right? That it's about shocking people and really stimulating a certain kind of response.
Once they came into power, the Soviet Union had decided to control film for means of propaganda and commissioned Eisenstein to make films. A devoted Marxist, Eisenstein created films depicting the power and might the USSR wanted to display to the public. His first film, entitled Strike, uses montage to display the communist ideas of the greater good. Eisenstein uses intellectual montage to juxtapose images of workers and their bosses. Another film, Battleship Potemkin, also sported heavy Soviet propaganda, even opening with a quote from Vladimir Lenin. These films impressed the Russian government and led to a successful career for Eisenstein. The films were recognized nationally for their use of Eisenstein's theory of montage.
Sergei Eisenstein had his films promoted, especially in Europe, because of the facility at that time of getting films transported and shown, especially in places like Paris. In that situation, the Parisians absolutely loved Potemkin. Those people who knew cinema saw him as the ultimate genius of the industry.
Eisenstein's ideas were equally popular in North America, where he went to film his project Que Viva Mexico, which eventually failed. It was also where he formed a friendship with a young American filmmaker named Walt Disney.
So it's something that seems very unlikely at the time, right? That someone as American and as capitalist as Walt Disney having a kind of a friendship to a certain degree with Sergei Eisenstein.
But Eisenstein wasn't the only one making waves in the filmmaking community. Just over 500 kilometers away, in Białystok, Poland, Dziga Vertov was born in 1896. Similar to Eisenstein, Vertov was heavily influenced by the Soviet Union and spent his early adulthood working as a documenter for the Soviets. Later in life, as a cinema theorist, Vertov began doing things with a camera that had never been done before. His work for the Soviets earned him major recognition and led him to help create the idea of a documentary, or film that gives a report on real life. His Kino Pravda, or Film Truth in Russian newsreels, and his legendary film Man with a Movie Camera showcased the lives of the working class in Russia, and the idea of shining light on real life quickly caught on. Today, the exchange of his ideas and style is prevalent, as documentaries like Fahrenheit 9/11, Blackfish, and The Bridge all investigate interesting stories and expose wrongdoing. Vertov's most well-known work, A Man with a Movie Camera, was described this way by Noel Murray. Although the film has a premise of sorts, it's about the work of a cinematographer, played by Vertov's brother Mikhail Kaufman, who also shot most of the footage. The true purpose was just to capture scenes of daily life as naturally as possible, and then to use editing and music to transform their meaning.
Understood film not as just a way of recording the world out there, as a purely objective documentary approach, but that he saw the transformative power of film itself in the ways that it could transform the way we think.
While Eisenstein was perfecting the use of montage, Vertov was mastering his own form of filmmaking, known as Kino Pravda, or Film Truth. The idea of film truth is to show an accurate representation of real life as opposed to a theatrical storyline. However, some of his films like Stride Soviet and 3 Songs About Lenin were actually used as propaganda, making this claim of truth seem ironic. The students of the All-Union State Institute of Cinematography, or Moscow Film School as it was known in the 1920s, explored new cinematic ideas, exchanged these ideas with other filmmakers, and encountered both support and challenges from the Soviet Union. Sergei Eisenstein studied at the Moscow Film School under Lev Kuleshov and helped to create the theory of montage, applying it to his films and creating one of the key principles of modern cinema. While Eisenstein was distorting space and time with his creations, Dziga Vertov was doing the opposite with his. Vertov's Kino Pravda newsreels and films aimed to capture an image of life in the Soviet Union. His goal was film truth, and he's accepted as the father of what today we know as the documentary film. While their theories were undoubtedly new and revolutionary, it would have mattered little had they not been able to exchange their ideas with the world.
Their exploration of new ideas was revolutionary. Their encounter will always be shown in their propaganda-driven films, and their exchange with other filmmakers changed the movie-making world forever.